Come to order. Good morning. Welcome to the Commissioners of St. Mary's County meeting this date, Tuesday, July 14th, 2026. I am Scott Ostro, Vice President of the Commissioners of St. Mary's County. Commissioner President Guy is unable to be here with us today. I'd like to introduce the other commissioners sitting to my right, residing in the 1st Commissioner District, which includes Ridge, Piney Point, and St. George's Island. Commissioner Eric Colvin.
Good morning.
Residing in the 2nd Commissioner District, which includes Leonardtown and Hollywood, Commissioner Mike Hewitt.
Good morning.
Sitting to my left, residing in the 3rd Commissioner District, which includes Charlotte Hall, 7th District, Golden Beach, and Mechanicsville, Commissioner Mike Alderson Jr.
Good morning.
Seated at the end of the dais is David Weiskopf, County Administrator.
Morning.
And at the end of the dais on my right is Julie Birch, our recorder for today. Sitting at the table to my right is our Communications Director, Jenna Guzman.
Good morning.
Our video production team is behind the glass. At this time, I'm going to ask everybody to please turn your cell phone off or on vibrate. And remind everybody, when you come to the presenter's table, please approach by coming down the center aisle. And remember, this meeting is being televised, so you need to speak clearly and directly into the microphone for recording purposes, or as Commissioner Guy always says, look good. Okay, at this time, we'll have the invocation and pledge. Father God, we just thank you for the privilege that we have being able to gather together, to govern ourselves, to make decisions based on what our needs are and not what is dictated to us. We thank you for all the blessings that you give us in our lives. We thank you for all the people who are here today. And we ask that you help us to make wise decisions, to always seek you first when we are making decisions. And we seek always to make just decisions, not based on our own wants, our own thoughts, our own desires, but always, always what is best for the people that we serve. We ask these things in Jesus' name. Amen. And join me for the pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay. At this time, I'll need the approval of the consent agenda.
So moved. And
So a motion.
second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes.
I move to approve the one-year lease renewal with the Friends of the St. Mary's County Library and authorize the Commissioner President to sign related correspondence.
Second.
I have a first and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Ayes have it. At this time, we're going to have proclamations, starting with National Park and Recreation Month.
Okay, any of my folks identifying as short, let's come up to the front, please.
You're just easy to see over top.
No, yours look great, actually. I'm not going to move you. I'm going to need you
to come out and around up front for me. We can't see you.
Nice try.
I think that's probably as good as
Good. Well, good morning, everybody, and have a proclamation this morning for National Park and Recreation Month, but I think I understand I'm supposed to be getting something here from Sonny. Look. And looks like we have tickets here for Frozen. Looks like for us up here. Fantastic. That special letter. Oh, wait a minute. Yes, wait a minute. Okay, well, here we go. All right, well, fly by wire. Here we go. It may be summer, but there's a magical winter wonderland happening for this year's summer stock. Sonny the Squirrel is excited to invite the commissioners of St. Mary's County and all county residents to come out to see this year's summer stock show. The Recreation and Park Summer Stock production of Disney's Frozen, the Broadway musical, premieres this weekend at Gray Mills High School. Shows are July 17th through the 19th and July 24th through 26th, with tickets available now. Go to www.stmaryscountymd.gov/recreate to get your tickets. We hope you'll join us for the music and magic of Disney's Frozen, perfect for the entire family. Now I get to do the serious stuff. Whereas the good health and well-being of all residents of St. Mary's County is enhanced by a strong commitment to valuable park and recreation programs throughout the county. And whereas we affirm the value of park and recreation programs which encourage physical activity, improve the physical and spiritual health of residents, instill an appreciation for the environment, and encourage the pursuit of a well-balanced and healthy lifestyle. And whereas the county makes available facilities and opportunities to all its citizens through the Department of Recreation and Parks, including parks, museums, a golf course, recreation centers, public landings and boat ramps, athletic facilities, and youth and adult programs and activities. And whereas the county acknowledges and commends our Department of Recreation and Parks, county staff, volunteers, youth sports leagues, and community groups in their joint efforts to provide successful programs. And whereas St. Mary's County celebrates the efforts of the National Recreation and Park Association and the Maryland Recreation and Parks Association, and joins in applauding the successful parks and recreation programs locally, which have had a positive and productive impact on the quality of life of everyone in St. Mary's County. Now, therefore, we, the Commissioners of St. Mary's County, do hereby proclaim the month of July 2026 as National Park and Recreation Month in St. Mary's County, and invite all citizens to visit their local parks and recreation facilities and discover what they have to offer. Signed this date, July 14th, 2026, Commissioners of St. Mary's County.
Thank you, Commissioner Alderson. For those who don't know me, I'm Ray Bivens, and I get the honor of serving as the Director of Recreation and Parks. And I'd like to just say, we all know we have some fantastic places and programs, museums, and other sites. But it's really the people that make the places so special. And that's from the thousands of individuals throughout the county that volunteer and give their time as coaches and volunteer and serve in other ways. Our hourly employees, and then our full-time employees, which we had swim lessons opening this morning for sign up, so they couldn't all be here and things like that. But can we give this group here a big round of applause that do a great job?
Oh, my name is Callie Hiddingfeld. I am the North Parks Coordinator.
Marguerite Cardenudo, Parks Operations Manager.
Valerie Hayden, Fiscal Specialist.
Christina Barber, Museum Supervisor at the St. Clements Island Museum.
Zachary Zolovic, Sports Coordinator.
Jessica Hale, Deputy Director.
Chris Langle, Gymnastics and Leisure Coordinator.
Roy Cobsey, Park Division Manager.
Jenna Miller, Park Operations Coordinator for the South.
Ken Burke, Museum Supervisor at Piney Point Lighthouse Museum.
Karen Stone, Museum Division Manager. Patrick Dugan, Golf Division Manager, Wicomico Shores.
Andrew Ponte, Marketing Manager with the Museum Division.
Christy Kaler, Project Manager.
Olivia Flack, Education Program Coordinator for the museums.
Good morning, I'm Kelsey Hehan, the Youth and Camp Programs Coordinator.
Margaret Boland, HR Volunteer Coordinator.
Crystal Hayslip, Therapeutic Recreation Coordinator.
Janet Cooper, I'm the Friends Administrator. And this is Sunny.
Actually have Andrew all the way around to the other side for me, please.
Better lighting for him.
I know, he never gets it. Get him a tripod. I mean, somebody, I guess, could sit here, but like, that one awkward talk.
Okay, now we're going to do buy local. So everybody who's here for that, come on up. Thank you.
Here, I can take all those and we'll distribute after. Get them in the frame.
Sydney and those guys to. Do you want them in the picture? That'll work. These were for you guys. And we'll give them out to everybody else. No, you're fine. And then we're actually going to if you are on the taller side, we're going to have you circle around back for us, please.
Oh, not
The gentleman first. Okay, probably. I'm just going to turn you and slide you in a little bit. There you go.
Okay. All right. Well, this is one of my absolute favorite proclamations because I always encourage everybody to buy local, especially our incredible farmers markets that we have. And so we have so many gifted people in our community who have businesses that they sell all kinds of amazing products and produce things that's just incredible. So whereas St. Mary's County agriculture and seafood businesses provide high-quality food for citizens of this great state and around the world, and whereas local agriculture and seafood operations link the past to the present and are important to the county's economic, environment, and quality of life for future generations. And whereas the support of St. Mary's County agricultural and seafood businesses is found through its citizens' desire for land preservation and their choices to purchase fresh, locally grown products, which contribute to higher nutrition, better quality, less waste, and less pollution. And whereas St. Mary's County is committed to promoting local agricultural and seafood enterprises and calls upon citizens to pledge to choose and enjoy products produced in St. Mary's County each day during the last full week of July 2026. Now, therefore, we, the Commissioners of St. Mary's County, in recognition of the 16th anniversary of the Buy Local Challenge, do hereby proclaim the week of July 17th to the 27th, 2026 as Maryland Buy Local Week in St. Mary's County, and call upon the people of our county to join us in committing to buying local goods. This date, July 14th, signed by all the Commissioners of St. Mary's County.
Good morning, everyone. Cindy Greb, Director of Economic Development, and I had the privilege of building several farmers markets in our community, and now I have the privilege of watching the staff just really give everybody in our community the strength they need to be part of your lives. And, you know, buying local, it creates jobs, it supports our family, and it really strengthens St. Mary's County in the long run. So buy local, it ripples out to everyone in our community.
Good morning, Sydney Garner, St. Mary's County Ag and Seafood Division Manager with Economic Development. We're so grateful for Buy Local Week. It's a really great chance to encourage consumers to meet these wonderful producers that are standing here with us and all the other ones that are in our community. It's great for your body. It's great for the community. Why would you not buy local? Thanks.
Hi, I'm Kelly Goling. I'm with Hidden Hills Farm.
Good morning, Alyssa Reeves with Visit St. Mary's, and I also want to just give a round of applause to Sydney and Cindy and Emily and everyone at Economic Development of the great work they do supporting local farmers. And at Visit St. Mary's, it's our job to also showcase all the wonderful things that we have in the county to people outside of it, because there's no other place you can get St. Mary's County goods.
Hi, I'm Joan Bearden with St. Mary's County Farm Bureau, and I also serve on SMATIC.
Hello, Chris Hall with Hidden Hills Farm in Great Mills, Maryland.
John Delosier, Just Holden Farms in Hollywood.
Phil Stevens, Loose Stones Oysters in Hollywood.
Megan Lyon, Lyon Family Farms in Mechanicsville.
BJ Lyon, Lyon Family Farms, Mechanicsville.
Molly Stevens, co-owner of Loose Stones Oyster Company.
Emily Lacey, St. Mary's County Economic Development.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Sabrina Dobbins from the Southern Maryland Agricultural Development Commission. I am going to do a small plug for the Buy Local Challenge hosted at Lyon Family Farm this year in Mechanicsville on July 27th. It's a Monday evening from 5 to 7 p.m. So I encourage everyone to get tickets at buylocalchallenge.com and come on out.
Take pictures.
Thank you.
Way out. Don't let me forget these guys. Hey. Check. Wait, there we go.
Okay, at this time, we're going to move into the public hearing from the Department of Information and Technology, Cable Franchise Agreement with Verizon Maryland, LLC. President is Angela Stancliffe, Acting Director, Department of Information and Technology.
Good morning, Commissioners.
Good morning.
Good morning, Mr. Weiskopf.
Good morning.
I come before you this morning as a follow-on continuation of our process to approve the cable franchise agreement with Verizon Maryland, LLC. Verizon Maryland LLC applied on May 20, 2026 for a cable franchise agreement authorizing Verizon to own, construct, operate, and maintain a cable television system within portions of St. Mary's County. The timeline for the public hearing process was before you on June 2, requesting authorization to hold the public hearing on June 26th and July 3rd. Public hearing notices were posted in the local newspaper. I'm before you this morning to hold the public hearing with the hope that I will return to you on July 28 for a decision on the adoption of the Verizon Maryland LLC cable franchise agreement.
So just one quick question for clarification. I believe Verizon said they're only looking to expand in a certain portion of the county, but this agreement would give them access to the entire county. Is that right?
That is correct, yes.
Okay.
And tell me, what portions of the county will they be operating in? So if people in Mechanicsville want to get it, they can't get it. Can you give us some boundaries?
I believe that the current map is the Lexington Park area is
Right.
where they currently have FiOS available, and up the 235 corridor. I'm not sure how far up to.
Does it include Wildwood?
I don't know.
Okay.
I can find out for you.
Maybe some clarification on that, maybe through a PIO, so people know what to expect if they want a new provider.
Absolutely.
All right, thank you.
Okay, at this time, we will now open the public hearing, cable franchise agreement with Verizon Maryland LLC. We will now have a but we've already gotten that. David Weiskopf will now provide the format for today's public hearing.
Thank you, sir. Here are the guidelines for today's public hearing. All speakers who wish to address the commissioners are asked to please sign up in the lobby. All speakers will be allotted 3 minutes to address the commissioners. At the end of your 3 minutes, our communications director, Jenna Guzman, will let you know your time has expired. We ask that you please respect the time limit to give all those who wish to speak an opportunity to be heard. Please note, for privacy reasons, we are no longer asking speakers to state their full name on camera, only the city or town in which they reside. This public forum is being televised live on St. Mary's County Government TV Channel 95 and streamed to our YouTube channel. It is critical that you speak directly into the microphone so that those watching at home can hear you. If you miss any part of this hearing, it will remain available for on-demand viewing on the St. Mary's County Government YouTube channel. We will now begin accepting comments from those who have signed up to speak. And I have no one that has signed up to speak. Is there anyone in the audience who wishes to speak? Please come forward. Okay. Please note that the public comment period will remain open for 7 days until close of business on July 21st, 2026. Should the public wish to send an email to csm@stmaryscountymd.gov or U.S. mail to P.O. Box 653, Leonardtown, Maryland, 20650. Commissioner, that concludes the comment period of the public hearing.
All right. At this time, we shall move into county administrator time.
Main agenda.
Main agenda. I knew that. I'm working on it.
Thank you, commissioners.
You need to close the public hearing, sir.
Oh, and I declare this public hearing closed.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And next up is the main agenda item,
Maryland Stadium Authority.
which is the
Yep, Maryland
Department-
Stadium Authority, correct?
Yes.
Yep.
And Recreation and Parks. And the Sports Complex Report. Welcome, everyone.
Good morning. Good morning, commissioners and fellow attendees. Thank you very much for giving us this time for this presentation. This morning, the Maryland Stadium Authority released the St. Mary's County Sports Complex Preliminary Design Report on our website. And my name is Malaya Damon. I was the project manager on this study. I'm also accompanied by Al Tyler in the audience, who's the Vice President of Economic Development. And also with us is the design team, Mans Woodworth and Ball Architecture, and they will introduce themselves.
Good morning. Eric Einhorn, Design Principal with Ball Architecture.
Rich DeRicco with Mans Woodward Studios.
And I'm Mike Girding, a project manager with Mans Woodward Studios.
So this morning, our presentation overview will go over some background in the timeline of the project, who the consultant project team was, the preliminary design, the programming for the outdoor and indoor facilities, a site analysis, a test fit analysis of the site, some opportunities and challenges of the site, and some potential next steps and MSA's role in this project. And then we will have time for some Q&A. So some background. Back in 2016, the St. Mary's County Tourism and Hospitality Master Plan was released. The county wanted to develop and grow the local tourism economy through attracting overnight visitors. In 2020, the Maryland Stadium Authority did a market and economic study for the proposed new sports complex. And that rolled into 2024 when we were asked to do a preliminary design for the sports complex in California, Maryland. Some of the key consultants in the project team were Mans Woodward Studios and Ballpark Architecture, who did the design and engineering. Trophy Point did a cost estimate of the project. And then we had Site Resources, who was our civil engineer. Navarro and Wright was our environmental and geotechnical consultant. AAHA was our archaeology consultant, and then the Traffic Group Incorporated did a traffic study as well. So what's included in the preliminary design? There is a 10 to 15% schematic design. There is also some site development and planning, infrastructure analysis, environmental impact, archaeological impact, and geotechnical impact. The site fit analysis was of 267 acres that the county identified that could accommodate the entire sports complex. And then lastly, there is a order of magnitude cost estimate included of how much it would be to construct the complex. Eric?
The outdoor portion of the site, we did facilities program with the team. We are proposing 8 multi-purpose tournament caliber athletic fields. These are rectangular fields for football, soccer, and lacrosse. Half of those fields we are recommending be artificial turf. Additionally, there are 8 diamond fields for baseball, for softball, of various sizes of competition through the youth level, through adult recreation. And we are also recommending that half of those fields would have artificial turf. Those facilities they each have seating. A couple of them are featured stadiums you'll see later in our concept designs. In addition to those fields in the outdoor program, we heard from the community the desire for pickleball. There are 12 pickleball courts arranged. They could be just for recreational play or tournament play. And there are walking and biking trails that link all these facilities throughout the site. Alternatives, additions to these outdoor facilities, we are proposing concession stands and open-air pavilions, along with some play areas and areas that just take in the site, the water, and the views. For the indoor facility, we are proposing 8 full-size basketball courts. And those gyms will be broken down into 3 units for multi-use, multi-purpose, multi-activities at once. And those 8 full-size basketball courts can break down into 16 volleyball courts or 30 pickleball courts. The 2 larger gyms can have box lacrosse, mat courts within them, indoor soccer, proposing ability to turf inside, with the remaining court still able to be turf, but for more training and smaller sports. And there is dedicated space within the building for athletic training, flexible space for hospitality, views of the gyms both inside and outside the facility. And additionally, additions can be mezzanine level that can include second floor tracks, covered walkways, linking these buildings, utilizing staircases, a small indoor gathering space, amphitheaters.
I'm going to take you through the site analysis. This is an overlay pretty much of the site boundary and a overhead aerial view. So you could see the site is heavily wooded. Just to give you some understanding where you are, towards the top left corner, there's St. Andrews Lane, which would be how you enter the site, and MD4 or Route 4. And towards the middle is Johnson Pond Lane and Johnson Pond. Going from there, so this is how we started to analyze the site and start to get into a site plan. We're calling this a test fit analysis. You will see there are 3 phases over about 6 years. I'd say 2 years approximately for each phase. The big strategy on the phasing was to try to collect a bunch of fields towards the phase 1 so that when phase 1 was created, then we could start, income could be developed from that, which would help fund phases 2 and 3. I'll kind of blow up these phases and go over the general idea, but the general strategy for the design, which is pretty much dictating the site and how we wanted to work with the site the most efficiently, well, we tried to cluster the fields in a manner that they were able to fit in a way on flat areas of the site to make it most efficient for construction. Orientation of the fields were improper, so things were safe. For instance, the diamonds wanted to be oriented. You don't want to have any west-facing diamonds, just for safety reasons if you're batting, for instance. The multi-purpose fields were basically at a 90, maybe slightly to the west. So that was really how we started to dictate things. One thing that was important to us, too, with the cluster of the fields was having its own parking for each cluster, not to have a mass parking lot, which is environmentally, when it comes to heat gain, it can be an issue. So by dispersing those throughout the site, that is helpful. So that really kind of dictated where we are going with this. We also chose to put the building itself in phase 3. So the idea is the experiences as you enter, again, through St. Andrews Lane and MD4. You weave your way through the fields. You get an experience to go to the park, per se, and then you end with the site, which we felt, or the building, which we felt was a great location where the pond is, and it helped to highlight some what we call feature fields. If you go to the next slide, phase 1, like I said, we wanted to get as many fields into phase 1 to start generating money. You will see diamond fields, some practice fields. I will point out kind of in the center to the top point, field 7, if you could see that one, that we would call a feature field, and it has basically a tower where you could have concession below and they could call the game and what have you. So there were fields that are more geared to baseball, to softball, and there's practice fields. Phase 2, technically we discussed a few. It could be built actually as the next phase, or actually phase 3 could. I think the two are interchangeable in terms of the needs. But phase 2 really just bridges the difference and adds 2 more multi-purpose fields and some more diamonds. But it does include an RV park, and we understand that certain people may not have the money or the funds to always be staying at a hotel. But if they do have an RV, that they have the option to set up there also. The site did have its challenges in some ways with the water and the wetlands. So we have to, in phase 3, we're proposing a bridge that has to really cross the whole wetlands. Not so much over water, but the wetlands itself. This brings you into phase 3, where it's pretty much the highlight of the park, which is the indoor facilities that Eric went over. Conceptually, this was chosen. We have a building that kind of snakes through and sets up these premier fields that are sunken. So you would see a diamond here that wraps at the top of the building, and then a multi-purpose field below. And these are sunken down, so you have really great views. Field, the top field there, diamond, is reminiscent of Baltimore Stadium. You will then see major parking. You would terminate this road here into major parking that will enter into the building, and to the right of that is another, what we call premier field, that is for the younger kids, that is specific to like Little League, and it has reminiscent of the Little League World Series in Williamsburg. So we were asked to maybe kind of theme or give some reference to fields that exist. Again, the phasing has different levels of cost and can fluctuate between 2 and 3 on which is built based on your needs. Eric, I think we could kind of go into the next slide, which is the renderings.
Yeah, we've provided some renderings to help visualize what we have designed for this site. As you see, the building where you're envisioning this, the gymnasium, the indoor facility, as it's one structure but broken up into 3 parts with lengths. And these parts set themselves up so they both capture views of the courts inside, but also the fields outside. They can be set up as viewing areas on warmer days. If there was a broadcast event, there's multi-purpose space that could be utilized for that. The fields, we have created natural bowls, taken advantage of some of the existing topography and enhanced that. So there's not just proposed permanent seating for the featured fields, but also natural grass berms to sit on. We have dispersed playgrounds throughout the site. You see at the top of this image is the field that recalls Camden Yards. As far as its dimensions, there's a taller right field wall with a plaza that also works with the north end of the gymnasium structure. There's also featured courts within this facility too, where 2 basketball courts can turn into one for a larger gymnasium with a little bit extra capacity with telescopic seating. The main entry to the building is, you see the drive with the circular drop-off. There's a glass corner atrium space with an open stair that links the floors of the building. The featured rectangular field you see to the left with that gymnasium, which features the featured gymnasium. So there's feature space that can be utilized to take advantage of bigger events within that area at once. And there's opportunities to access the building through the grandstands so that locker rooms can be utilized for multiple sports, both indoor and outdoor, easily. Moving forward, you see a view of that bowl and how the buildings help, create more prominence around the featured rectangular field for football, soccer, and lacrosse. You see the side of the entry of the building to the right, and beyond this, there's Johnson's Pond. Next slide shows sort of this phase 3 all at once, where to the top of the screen and far, you see the smaller Little League field that, as Rich said, it recalls the Little League World Series feature stadium in Williamsport. There is berm seating beyond the fence, taking advantage of the topography, folding down into that area. Think about Little League World Series. There's lots of kids chasing home runs on that hill. We wanted to bring some of that energy. We saw this site. It seemed like a natural fit. You see to that field's left, there's one of the many practice infields we're placing along the site, because we know that's something that's added to the program to make this space, this complex, operationally efficient between games, having areas for teams to warm up while others are on fields. You'll see there's small concessions and pavilion buildings around as well. And what we have found through this study is there's a lot of great opportunities with this site. The size of the site is certainly adequate to fit all the fields we were tasked with showing on the site, as well as some extra program we felt was necessary to make this complex successful. It's a centralized location within your county, and from what we saw in our meeting, a little over a year ago, there was a lot of community support for this. This room was packed with people wanting to get their interests in on this project. I mean, there are a few challenges. As Rich said, currently a lot of the site is a lot of significant forest vegetation and growth that, we would need to work with, try and keep as much as we could. 35, about a third of the site does have wetlands and streams, but we have been able to work with that existing and turn that negative into a positive, where we're providing views of those wetlands, of the pond, from the fields, from the buildings, as best as we can, with the way we're setting up the bowls and the seating. Traffic improvements might be necessary to the site access point, the intersection of Maryland Route 4 and Indian Bridge Road.
No might about it. They
might
definitely
about
would.
Yeah. And we've addressed that within our study, and also, we're suggesting, or the required 1,588 parking spaces for the program may not be feasible without additional disturbance to the environmentally sensitive areas, may need retaining walls, and could be a slight strain on the proposed site infrastructure.
So into the cost estimate, we did, as we spoke earlier, divided the project into 3 phases. And it was, the escalation is from 2027 to 2032. So like we said earlier, phase 1 includes 8 fields, phase 2 includes 4 fields, and then phase 3 includes 6 fields, the sports indoor building and the transportation bridge and main parking. MSA used the estimated net building direct costs from the Trophy Point cost estimate to establish a total cost of construction that included general conditions, fees, and bonding by a construction manager. And then from that cost, we estimated the soft costs, non-construction related items like design and engineering, any permitting, owner project management and on-site representation, T&I testing and inspection services, and some overall project contingency. If you did not phase the project, you would save approximately 2.5% to 5% in savings on an unphased project. So the next slide is the actual cost estimate. So the first phase would be about $56.5 million. That includes all of your allowances. Phase 1B archaeological study needs to be done. A percolation and hydrology tests would also need to be completed. The off-site intersection improvement, off-site electrical, forest conservation work, wetlands work, FF&E, and then the theming and signage is also included in that price. So this is basically prepping the land, which a lot of the cost goes into to do this first phase. Additionally, we have added any alternates that may be included, the concession stands and the open air pavilions as well. Moving down to phase 2, that cost is about $26 million, and that includes some more forest conservation work, wetlands work, FF&E, theming and signage. There's also some alternates to add the concession stands and the open air pavilions as well. And then moving on to phase 3, including the bridge, site work, the sports complex building, and any allowances in the phase 3 work is about $254.5 million. That includes your more forest conservation work, wetlands work, soil import and export, allowance for any unsuitable soils that may be found before constructing the building, FF&E, and then theming and signage. And then we also have the alternates for the indoor building, with the mezzanine level, the second floor track, covered walkway, some concession stands, and then some more open air pavilions. So that is the phase cost. If you did an unphased project for 2.5% unphased savings, the total would be about $329 million. And for a 5% unphased savings, it would be about $320.5 million. Some potential next steps would be a funding plan would need to be created for the development costs. It could include some public and private sector partners, operating strategy for the complex, exploring potential operating and programming partnerships with any public or private entities, a timeline for the design and construction, and a financial plan that addresses both the ongoing operational and long-term capital improvements needed for the sports complex. And finally, MSA's role in managing these studies. We provide an unbiased, objective analysis, giving you information that you need to make any decisions about your investment and benefits in your communities and constituents. I also would like to thank the Department of Parks and Recs who were heavily involved in this project. We'll open it up for any questions.
Well, this is definitely a beautiful proposal you brought to us, but a very expensive proposal.
Yes.
In developing your estimates, do you have any estimate on what the recurring cost to operate and maintain it would be?
The operational costs would be in the market and economic study. That's on our website that was released in.
But that was created before the plan was even,
Right.
before this much of the plan was even
That
done.
this is based off of that programming. So this preliminary design programming is based off that market and economic study, and that's what we use to develop this.
Okay.
And the full study is on our website under projects and studies. It's probably easier to filter it through county. If you do St. Mary's County, you'll see all of the studies we've done so far for the county.
I have one question on this. You know, I'm not an engineer, have any technical experience whatsoever in any kind of building, but all the great things that this sports complex offers, is there a way, in any way, because there is a large community here in St. Mary's County that also does ice hockey, is there a way to incorporate that in any way into this?
Make it even more expensive.
Yeah, but it's a question. I mean, this is serving so many different areas. There is a very large community for ice hockey here, and they have to go all the way to Waldorf to.
Yes, when we were asked to do this preliminary design, the ice was taken off the table.
Taken off, okay.
Okay, I have a few questions. Ms. Damon, tell me, the Maryland Stadium Authority, they've recently gotten involved in these types of things. You weren't doing this 5 years ago, or were you? I always thought you guys ran Raven Stadium or Camden Yards or whatever you did up there in Baltimore. Is this a new venture for you?
Economic development actually is not new.
Okay.
We did a lot with the convention centers, and then we started moving into sports complex. We did the Hagerstown Minor League Baseball Stadium.
Okay.
And then we started doing preliminary designs for counties or localities who desired sports complexes. So it's
Well,
what's
tell
hot
me.
right now.
Well, I have two questions on this specific part. First one is, where have you done one that's similar in size or scope of this one? Have you done one, has the Stadium Authority done one in the state of Maryland that's similar in scope to this?
We have not constructed a sports complex. What we have done is the minor league stadium We have done all of the improvements to the minor league baseball stadiums throughout the state. We have done that to bring it up to the PDL standards. We just finished those. And then we have done we've done the legislative services building.
Okay, let me just say this. You haven't done anything of this scope.
Correct.
Okay. Tell me, funding. Do you help with funding? I know a former county commissioner who's running for election this year said that, you know, our good senator, great guy, had $100 million teed up for this. Does the state get involved in funding these things?
So, yes.
Good.
A lot of localities use our studies to go to the legislator
What?
to ask for funding, part or whole, in phases or at once. MSA personally does not have the funds, but we are allowed to issue bonds if you decide to go that route.
So you wouldn't provide funding, you would just provide the mechanism to gain funding.
Correct. The state gives us the funding to give to the counties.
Now, has the state gotten involved in direct funding of any of these kind of facilities?
Besides Pimlico, Hagerstown Minor League Stadium was in whole. Pimlico, there is an initiative in Prince George's County for the Blue Line Corridor that the state provided funds for. The DLS building, they provided
Okay, are we
funds.
talking 300 million, 100 million? Are we talking anywhere
Blue
near
Line
these
Corridor,
numbers?
I think, is 400 million. Pimlico is
Oh, good.
500 million.
So the state has put that kind of money into these projects?
Yes.
Okay, so there's potential for this to happen.
But most of it is bonds, so it's payable back over, I think, 30 years. And that's what the market and economic study comes in, because it tells you how much.
But do the counties pay that bond, or do the
counties.
state? Oh, so it's just, again, another mechanism to gain funding to allow us to get there. Because our total budget's $360 million, or in that neighborhood. $320 million, it's just not, I mean, did someone say to you what we can afford here?
No. So because the study is unbiased and it's just collecting data and pushing out numbers, we give you the number, and then if it works where you can make an income, because this will also be an economic
Right.
driver for the county, you could use that income for either operational costs or to pay back the bonds as well.
Okay, I'm sorry I didn't read this whole thing.
Oh, no, it's
I
fine.
perused it. But tell me, what kind of return on investment do you think this would do? I mean, this would have to really bring a lot of money in
For this project,
to venture
yes.
this type of investment.
Yes, I think in the market and economic, if I'm not mistaken, it was almost $2 million a
It'd be
year
a $2 million a year gross return
in tax revenue
in tax revenue.
and new taxes.
Okay. Well, again, I think the key here is understanding what we can afford.
Correct.
And, you know, and look, you guys are great. You do it. I mean, this is very beautiful what you've done. But sometimes, you know, you give somebody no limitations as to what people can afford, and you say, design me something. Look, if I had that job and I was getting paid to do that job, I'd design Williamsport or whatever. And look, these are good ideas. I just don't know if this county can afford this type of a investment. So let me flip over to Mr. I'm sorry, it's Eichhorn?
Einhorn.
Einhorn. Your company, have you done any of these anywhere in, say, in the region, in Mid-Atlantic region? Have you done any in, I guess you do work in probably Pennsylvania or Virginia, or do you just work in Maryland?
We work all over the country. We've done projects coast to coast, California.
Okay,
through Maryland, up and down
you're
the East Coast and
national.
Southeast,
Have you done anything like this?
Yes, I've worked on projects such as the Star Center down in South Carolina, which is smaller size, like fewer fields, and little, maybe half the size of the indoor facility.
How big is the community? Is it 115,000 people?
It's actually, I don't know quite the CSA, but it's in the Greenville-Spartanburg area in
So
the
it's
upstate,
in
which
it's
is
a more
one of the
regional, higher volume population?
It's not as close to as large as cities as, that are a short drive from here.
Okay.
But it's, the Spartanburg is larger than California, Maryland, but I think the population center that's within a drive, because a lot of these youth sports complexes, yes, they're for the community, but they're also drivers to bring in the travel sports.
Well, one of the challenges of St. Mary's County is we're a peninsula, so we don't really have the luxury of having a 360-degree range of people to come to us. They all have to come in and go out essentially the same way. So where I'm going with this is, if you were to have a smaller site, now I know we have a comp plan coming up, and I've been watching these planning commission meetings, and I've seen this group over by Wildwood that wants to give maybe 50 acres or more of a site to the county. What would 50 acres be able to handle this, or does this need to have 200 acres to make it work?
It's hard to determine with just that size because there's areas on each site where you can't develop if there are wetlands.
No, I get all that.
If there was just.
But did you talk about 35% of this site is impacted by wetlands and that type of thing?
Actually that's driving a lot of the costs is the site prep,
Right.
taking all the trees down, leveling it, avoiding the wetlands. The price is heavily increased because of the site clearing and things that needs to be done. If we have 50 acres instead of 260 acres, something could be done. It might not be this full program, but we would have to analyze that as well.
Again, I did watch the hearing last year that you held with the public, and it was well attended, and it was a lot of great ideas, but it just didn't seem to put any contours on it. It was like, if I hate to use the term, ask my grandchildren, what do you guys want to do? Well, we're going to do all kinds of things, but there's only so many things we can do. So that part of it is a little bit hard for this commissioner to adjust to, because it's like design me something and there's no spending limit. But if you've seen one that's been successful, that I'm a big fan of, I don't need to invent the wheel, I just need to watch it roll. So if I could copy something that I know has worked and would work here, that would be a little bit easier to accommodate, or at least try to figure into this budget that we have, because we got so many needs with, again, schools and sheriff's department and public safety, the whole thing, that the Recs and Parks thing is very big. But I just don't know if we can actually put our head around something of this scope. So I'll leave it at that. One other thing, no, those were the two major ones. Thank you.
Thank you.
I think my biggest concern with the scope of this project and having St. Mary's Lake in floodplain for any runoff coming off the site. We have a dam on the lake that is not in the greatest of shape to begin with, and just the sheer scope of the land clearing and the slopes around it really concerned me. That's once I think and I understand the site prep costs. It's going to be the majority of it. The other, I think the project that Commissioner Hewitt might have been thinking of with MSA would be the Ocean City Sports Complex, because that was at 95 acre site. And I remember leaving from Mako last year and driving by there and driving near the site and future home of, and there was a lot of talk about how big it's going to be, and also here with the girls World Softball, Softball World Series, or we don't have an event like that where we can get national attention, and at $300 million, that is it's a beautiful facility, and I would love to have had this built maybe 10, 15 years ago, something a little bit smaller than what the Montgomery County Soccerplex is. What when I was a regular citizen, I came to a public hearing and projected it, and pitched a project like that. But, you know, money being what it is, and, you know, like the other commissioners have said, you have so many other responsibilities that we have. But I would, you know, could we do a small, like I said, could we do a smaller version of this on another piece of land somewhere? You know, that's up to us. But right now, the financial side of it right now is the stats a staggering number to look at, especially when we just finished up our budget.
Yeah.
And I also would have, this commissioner would have very serious concerns about the traffic on there by Indian Bridge and Route 4. I think that would be a major traffic overhaul. I don't see how that could, that's a very big concern for me.
Well, tell me, what are next steps, in your opinion?
I'm sorry.
Next steps? The Maryland Stadium.
So after
been
this, the
driving.
Maryland Stadium Authority is considered done with this
Okay.
part of the study.
Okay.
You know, whatever
It's up to
the
us.
commissioners, the county, the state decides how to move forward. If we are asked to come back again, we will. If you decide to move forward with someone else, that's also up to you. But as far as this part, this is the end of us.
Okay.
So it sounds like the discussion would need to be with our state delegation now if we
Yes.
wanted
Correct.
to move forward with this.
Correct.
Yeah, we've invested several $100,000 into this project. I guess the next step is to see what's funding's available beyond what's available here.
Yep.
Well, thank you for your presentation and your time.
Thank you.
Yes. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. And I believe now we move into county.
I think we do the comp plan, don't we?
It's a comp plan?
Are we still discussing comp plan?
Well, it says request for public.
Ms. Director Andritz has wanted to update you all.
Yeah.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Don't have any of that.
We want to have a public hearing, right?
No, not yet. Planning Commission
When
hasn't
did-
approved it
When did that change?
last night.
What?
The Planning Commission didn't
I'm
approve
sorry,
it.
what's your question?
I thought we were going to vote to have a public hearing.
She
on
had
the
a
August-
request for a public hearing, but the planning commission's not done with it yet. So I don't know that we can request a public hearing when they're not.
Okay, I didn't know that
Right.
was what the, okay, well, then this is new to me. I'll put this 3 inches away to read later, too.
Well, good morning, Commissioners. Jessica Andritz on behalf of the Department of Land Use and Growth Management. Virtually, I also have Leanne King from Clarion Associates. I don't anticipate that there will be scheduling of anything at this time. We did put forward the request to schedule a public hearing. That's why I was originally going to be here this morning. We had anticipated the Planning Commission might be in a posture to provide a recommendation for you all, but as Commissioner Colvin pointed out, we are not there yet. They did take up several matters yesterday evening, but as a whole, we're not ready to recommend moving forward. So that information was provided in diligent, down towards the bottom, the background issues to be aware of. And so just coming before you because we were scheduled to do so. The rest of the matters will continue on tentatively August 3rd here in the Commissioners' meeting room. That will be a meeting, again, with the Planning Commission where they will continue to deliberate and perhaps by that time be in a posture to provide a recommendation to you all, but we're just not there yet. Okay?
It's more the same. We're not there yet. You know, I'm just so disappointed this has taken so long. This was supposed to have been done by the winter of 25, 26, and here we are into the summer of 26, and we're extending it out. It just does not make sense for this board, which started this, to kind of go forth and make their final decision on it when a new board's going to be in here in 3 months, 4 months.
And I appreciate your feedback. We're doing all that we can.
And I'm definitely disappointed in that, Ms. Andrews.
So I would just ask if we look to scheduling, once the Planning Commission gets done with their deliberations, which I was pretty shocked by some of their votes last night, not in favor of some of them, or all of them.
Agreed.
But I kind of view this comp plan similar as to our budget process, and I would like to see this board get a little bit of deliberation time on the final version of the comp plan, which we haven't seen yet because the Planning Commission hasn't made any changes that they want to make, before we take it to public hearing. In case there's any changes that this board wants to make, it doesn't make sense to take a draft to public hearing if we haven't had a chance to make any edits to it yet.
So would you propose that we, instead of coming before you next time to request a public hearing, that perhaps a work session be scheduled?
Yes.
Okay.
That's exactly what I would love to see.
Okay, all right.
Again, this is developing into a waste of time for this board because we're going to be out of here. Two of us are going to be out of here in no time.
But we're still in the seats, and I think we should still do the work.
Well, the next board should be making this decision.
So is there a consensus on how you'd like us to move forward?
I say a work session, keep moving forward, keep doing the job we're being paid to do.
I'd have to agree with that, do the work session.
I would like to see the work session, whether we can proceed or not. We need to do the work first.
All right, be happy to get that scheduled as soon as the Planning Commission has made a recommendation.
August 3rd, is the projection for them?
It is. Hopefully, they'll be able to complete their deliberations in that time. And if not, we'll have to look at a different day.
Because they only have, three more items to finish up?
They actually have the rest of the requests for land use designation changes, as well as the various recommendations provided by the project team. A couple of those were just sort of status updates to the introduction section. One of them involved reinserting language in from economic development regarding the ferry to acknowledge all of the work that their staff has done. So that's both of those items are contained in a memo. And then we also have the recommendations from the project team regarding comments received by various state agencies, as well as taking into consideration all of the time and effort that citizens came out and spoke. And so we are addressing and bringing some of their recommendations forward for some edits
That
as well.
sounds like a tremendously heavy lift to accomplish
That's a
by
lot.
August 3rd.
It's a lot.
Indeed, and we've been hard at it.
And
We have.
I fully agree with Commissioner Hewitt's viewpoint about how long this has taken, but I do not want to rush it at the end and shortchange it at the end. We need to finish strong and do the work. As far as the passenger ferry, I know that we had some discussion on this board before, and then I think Economic Development has gone back and made some recommendations, and the Planning Commission, it's in their purview to make whatever recommendations they want. I'm just saying I will not be in support of the full verbiage that Economic Development had originally put in there. That is way too overboard for a passenger ferry for the comp plan, in my opinion.
And there was, I will say, there was a presentation put together by the consultant that had originally suggested sort of truncating the information and just including it as one item. But the Planning Commission was not comfortable with that at that time. So we'll see, like you said, where they land. But I've made a note of your comment. All right. Any other thoughts, questions?
I'll just say this about it. So what we're going to do is we're going to wait for the Planning Commission to make their decision, which hopefully will happen August 3rd. So once that happens, then it comes to us, and we're going to have a work session on it, which will take whatever it takes, because we have a few weeks off in August to go to Mako and whatever else we do. So now we're probably getting into September. Once the commissioners finally get to a point when we're going to make a decision here, there's going to be a timeline after that for hearings or appeals or something else to happen after that? Or would the commissioners, if everything went to plan, make a final decision on this?
That would be driven by this board. I've put together a list of dates where we could, come before you and request a public hearing. But I did hear consensus this morning that you would appreciate a work session, an opportunity to dialogue with the project team, let your, concerns and direction be known to us as well, which I think is a fantastic idea, and we're happy to do that. That will delay the timeline. But look, we've been in this for a while, and we want to make sure that it reflects the views of our community and certainly the constituents that you represent.
And absolutely, like Commissioner Colvin said, I don't want to rush this at the end and slam this together. And I mean, the comp plan is 8 phases, correct? It's an 8-phase, it's an 8-tier plan. I mean, there's 8 pieces.
I'm sorry, you're talking about the elements.
Yeah,
there are
the elements.
many
There's 8
elements
to it, correct. So, in truth, I'm not sure one work session would be enough to cover 250 pages of the entire comp plan and go through it, because we're going to have to, I'm not going to rush this at the end either, so, yeah.
I think that's where it's incumbent upon us, for us to do our homework and actually
Absolutely.
buckle down and, come to any kind of work session prepared with a list of, hey, this is what I have issues with, or this is what I think we need clarification on, instead of, going line by line through the entire 250 pages.
Yep. And I would also have concerns about coming out in a public hearing with all 250 pages, 7 pieces of or 8 pieces of the plan to public hearing. It might be something to think about to break that up. So the public, because how many people are actually in the public going to read 250 pages of the plan? There's a lot of steps involved here.
All right, well, thank you very much for your time this morning. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Okay, let's try this one more time. I think now is county administrator time. I'm going to turn it over to our county administrator, Mr. Weisskopf.
Thank you, Commissioner Ostro. We'll start, as we always do, with the draft agendas for July 21st and July 28th. July 21st, you'll start at your normal time and place, followed by commendations for Home Delivered Meals Program volunteer, followed by county administrator time, commissioner time, closed sessions for real property and personnel, adjourn, and then at 2 p.m. have the St. Mary's County Early Learning Center ribbon cutting right next door. On July 28th, you'll start at your normal time and place, followed by a decision for the Department of Information Technology on the Verizon franchise agreement, followed by county administrator time, commissioner time, adjourn, and then have a 2 p.m. groundbreaking for St. Mary's County Sheriff's Office Support Services Building. And first on the agenda today is the Sheriff's Office for the DOJ fiscal year 2026 COPS Technology and Equipment Program. I see CFO Lottie Bell and Captain.
Good morning. Good morning, Commissioners.
Morning.
Just to start, in May of '24, you guys may remember, you guys offered your letter of support to the Sheriff's Office for our mobile command vehicle project that we started at this time. So that's coming to fruition at this point, and we've been invited to apply with the U.S. Department of Justice COPS grant for up to $800,000 in non-competitive grant funding for that mobile command vehicle project. If awarded, we would be returning to you guys at that point, because this fund, they were not included in our FY27 budget. We're excited for this opportunity. While this grant would not require a local match, we understand that the quote that we've gotten for this vehicle is just over about $900,000. So with an $800,000 grant, we are prepared to use up to $250,000 in our local forfeited funds, rather than come back and request more money from you guys for that. So we are prepared for the possibility of that. So today's request is for approval to submit the required pre-application, and if invited to move forward, we would complete the full application and return with any necessary documentation for you guys.
Well, go ahead.
No, I'm good with it.
No, I'm going to support it. Now, one thing that's said in here is that for $800,000, you're going to get a command center that, let me understand, when would that be used? Okay, you got a barricade situation, you got some type of a situation where you need headquarters on site. Is that true?
That's part of it. A command vehicle can be used for several different things. So that type of incident where we kind of need a workspace for a lot of officers and we need to be organized, like a barricade or a major incident. But it could also be deployed to help at community events when we have large gatherings like the fair, Juneteenth, things like that. Or even smaller than that if we have a need for it somewhere or to assist a different agency within the county.
Okay. So you had taken out the restroom facility in this. So what are you going to do if someone has to use the restroom?
We
We're
looked
going to use
into
the woods? I mean, I'm being silly, I apologize. But my point is it's for $900,000. I mean, Lord knows, I've seen, I haven't bought one, but I've seen some RVs that were very well equipped for a third that cost. I mean, I just don't understand why you wouldn't have some type of a facility like that in case someone, what do you got, go back to headquarters?
Yeah, that's a reasonable question. It's something that we looked into. We talked to other departments, the pros and cons of the agencies that did use the restroom facility
Okay,
within it and not. And what we found was with the increased cost of it, along with the maintenance that's then required and the training and disposing of the waste correctly and the facilities required for that, we have the facilities around St. Mary's County where typically anywhere where we have a command post, we're within 10 to 15 minutes of a public facility or a restroom that we could use in that. So when it came to the pros and cons and kind of weighing the facilities available to us as opposed to the maintenance required should we have,
Okay,
the gray water, black water
I get it. You
problem.
figured out the cost-benefit analysis, and you figured you can deal with it.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Now, I remember it was a while back where I think of Mr. Dean, he ended up getting shot by a sniper from the Maryland State Police. He was in a barricade situation, whatever was going on. And I remember we had set up the police, I wasn't a commissioner then, but had set up some type of a barricade or whatever it was to keep this person from harming anybody outside. So would this be used in those type of situations? Because what happened after that, they used something like $300,000 to buy a vehicle that would look like a tank or some kind of an assault vehicle or something. So is this just like another type of a vehicle you're going to have in addition to that vehicle?
So this wouldn't be an armored vehicle. This is a completely different use than this. This is
Oh, it's not
strictly for
armored.
command, where the commanding officers can have a safe location. It would be in a safe location, probably slightly adjacent from a scene and not on the scene. It's not made for the armored vehicle use.
Okay, good. Now, is it like a RV or is it a big, how big is it?
It's similar to a motorhome. However, the
Okay.
one we're currently looking at and getting quotes on has the smaller chassis that would not require a CDL driver. That way we could have more drivers trained within our agency to
Okay.
to operate that.
Okay, all right, well, good luck.
Thanks.
Hopefully you don't need to use it.
Any other questions? I need a motion.
I move to approve the FY 2026 COPS Technology and Equipment Program Grant Application Document from the U.S. Department of Justice and authorize the Commissioner President and the Sheriff to execute any related or subsequent application documents.
Second, but one more question.
Yes, sir.
You talk about your forfeiture fund, that you can get $250,000 from there. Now, I'm assuming forfeiture is like when you get a bad guy, you've been involved in something that was illegal, and you confiscate whatever cash or whatever is there. How much money is in that fund?
Currently, that fund contains just over $365,000.
355?
65.
Okay. And what's it typically used for?
I can Ms. Bell speak for that. This is my first year working with the forfeiture fund, so she would have a better idea of that.
It has helped with the armored vehicle before, or the equipment vehicle we purchased, and now we propose to use some of it towards this. And next week, you will have another grant coming before you, and we will request to use the remainder towards that.
All right, excuse this term, but is it like a slush fund that you have there to use as it's not dedicated to anything?
Not at this time. I mean, we would earmark it towards
You
these
typically
grants.
have used it for one-time use.
Yes, for
items,
larger
yeah.
items.
Again, slush fund.
But
Well, it's asset forfeiture, correct?
we do follow the same guidelines that the federally forfeited equitable sharing funds followed, so there are very strict guidelines.
Okay, well, it sounds like you have enough money to do it. Thank you.
Yes, thank you.
I have a first and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. Ayes have it.
Thank you.
Thank you both. Next up is from the State's Attorney's Office for fiscal year 27 GOCAP Gun Violence Reduction Grant Award. State's Attorney Jamie Sterling and Chief of Staff Jessica Hall. Welcome.
All right, good morning.
Good morning.
So we're excited to be here before you to tell you that the Governor's Office of Crime Prevention and Policy has granted us a grant for the full amount that we requested for the gun violence reduction grant. This is our 4th year. It's the exact amount that we've requested every year, and it should cover the one full-time employee that does our demonstrative evidence analyst for gun cases, gang guns, violent crime. So the exact same thing we've had the last 3 years, no changes.
Ever reduce gun violence with this grant?
I believe so. I think we have.
Do you have any statistics that?
You can look at all those convictions with all the gang members that we put in jail for life.
Well, no, I'm not talking about that, but are there less gun violence things happening in the county?
What are you asking?
Let's say here, this is a gun violence reduction grant. Are we
For
reducing gun violence?
every person who's been convicted for murder, attempted murder, possession of having a firearm, all those convictions are a reduction. That's one less gun out on the streets.
Okay.
That's one less
But
murder on the
I'm trying to say, if
streets.
we had 20 last year, do we have 15 this year? You know, are the incidents, the numbers of incidents per year reduced?
We can't quantify that in that way.
Okay, thank you.
All right, I move to approve the grant award for the FY27 GOCPP Gun Violence Reduction Grant and authorize the Commissioner President to execute any related documents.
Second.
I have a first and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Ayes have it.
Thank you.
Thank you both.
Thank you.
Next up from the Department of Recreation and Parks with Director Ray Bivens is the Snow Hill Farm Lease. Welcome.
Thank you. Good morning, Commissioners. There's a need for me to be here today, and that's because of our capital project that is moving forward. It's in that'll add a boat ramp and parking and a kayak rent facility. That project is moving forward. It's in the final stages of procurement, moving through to legal currently. So the farm lease needs to change. We've been in close communication with Mr. Jeff Raley Jr. and Sr. They know this has been coming. Some of what has been their favorite farmland on the property will become the boat launch and things like that, but there is a revised lease that they've already signed that shrinks the acreage and keeps us in good standing with our contractor.
How's the entryway enhancements coming and the view lines and all?
That'll be concurrently done, but by a second company. That is not going to be as part of this bid project, but that is, it'll be done during that same time
So,
period.
because the arrangement was the boat ramp would not open until we had those lines of
Yes.
sites fixed.
Yep.
Okay.
But that is, Trading Post is the lead on that, so it's a much simpler process than the larger capital
Faith
project.
in them. That's good. Yeah, so this seems like an easy one. I move to approve the Snow Hill Farm lease and authorize the Commissioner President to execute any related documents.
Second.
A first and a second. All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Ayes have it.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next up from the Department of Economic Development is a property tax credit incentive for Max PR LLC with Director Cindy Greb and Mr. Patel, I believe.
Yes.
Good morning. Welcome.
Morning.
Good morning, Commissioners. Thank you for having us this morning. I'd like to thank Mr. Mattel for joining us today, and I'm going to give him an opportunity to answer any questions you have after I ask to share our request. This morning, we're here requesting the approval of a property tax challenge incentive for MAXXPR, which is actually the old Burger King in Lexington Park. We all know it very well, especially if you went to high school at Great Mills back in the 80s. Their investment is over $1.5 million in acquisition and redevelopment of an existing commercial property located at Great Mills Road and South Essex Drive. The project includes completion of exterior improvements and interior conversions to a state-of-the-art, fast casual restaurant. The economic impact creates 30 to 35 new jobs. Their eligibility, we've already approved them and said that they met all the criteria. Their investment exceeds 15% of the assessed value, which is currently $806,700. They qualify for a 10-year property tax credit, not to exceed 25% of that credit. Our review of their application indicates that they meet all the program requirements, and we recommend approval. The community benefit, I'd like to stress, is that it advances revitalization of Lexington Park, encourages private investment, and supports continued commercial redevelopment in Lexington Park, and we hope that it continues to ripple out in Lexington Park. Any questions for Mr. Patel?
I think this is great. I mean, this is exactly what this tax incentive was designed to do, and this property sat vacant for quite a few years, so I'm really excited to see something coming in here, and I like the term fast casual. That's, sounds good.
So tell me, Mr. Patel, do you have any other facilities like this that you've done before, or you have other projects like this?
So this is our first project in St. Mary's County, but we have, multiple in Charles County.
Oh, good. So you do have other places you've done this. Now,
Yes.
were you able to buy the property? I knew someone before who wanted to do something with it, and he couldn't reach an agreement with the people who own the property. Apparently you have?
Yeah, we just bought the property, yeah.
Oh, good. So you are good.
Mr. Patel, I'd definitely like to say, just a thank you for bringing your business here to St. Mary's County. And I did have a question. What made you choose St. Mary's County as a place you wanted to bring business to?
Being honest, I've been looking for, business in St. Mary's County, but I'm in a franchise business, all my life. And a lot of franchise, people come out and, buy the right, for all the food businesses. So we are Dunkin' franchisee in Charles County. I opened the first Charlie's in La Plata, Maryland. And this site was referred to me by the corporate. So, corporate constantly looking for a good site. And this site had so many challenges because they had a lot of restriction on the site, what can and what cannot be done. So Charlie's was only the one of the best options that they could approve, because there won't be no coffee place, no, fast food, other, sandwich shop or burger place here.
Well, it is definitely fantastic. I personally love Charlie's. So
Thank you.
It's
What
gonna
is
be-
it called? What's the name?
Charlie's.
Charlie's
Cheesesteaks.
cheesesteaks.
Yep.
Yeah.
And wings, yeah.
The best cheesesteaks this side of Philly, for sure. I definitely
Well, and
think
I would love to thank our team, too. The
Yes.
DED team worked very hard with them to make sure that they could take advantage of some of these really unique tax incentive programs that we have available to people in particularly Lexington Park area.
definitely a shout out to the economic development team for putting this together and working so hard and in conjunction with Mr. Patel and bringing this opportunity about, much needed in our community, much needed jobs in our community. So I thank you very much for
You're welcome.
your investment in our community, and I hope it's tremendously successful.
Thank you. Hope so.
Mr. Patel, I have one question for you. I'm looking at your floor plans here, and you have future retail tenant space set aside. Any idea what kind of tenant you want to put in there or would like to put in there?
The original idea was to put a pizza place, like Italian pizza place on the side, but of course, Charlie's, they don't want any other food place.
Yeah, of course not.
So right now, as of right now, the whole building we are using as a dining area for the Charlie's.
Okay.
So
Good.
there's no future idea. Hopefully, we can, succeed enough that we don't need any future tenant, in that space.
I think your location is excellent too, with proximity to the base. You're going to get a lot of good traffic.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
And it's been amazing experience working with the county, with the permitting and all that. Very helpful.
Good.
And fast, good response as well, yeah.
That
Well, I
means he's
move
going
to
to come back
approve-
for another one. I'm sorry.
Definitely, yeah.
I move to approve the property tax credit incentive for MAXXPR LLC property located at 21650 Great Mills Road, Lexington Park, Maryland, 20653, and have the Commissioner President sign all related documents.
Second.
I have a first and a second. All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Ayes have it.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Commissioner.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you both.
Thank you.
Next up is also from Department of Economic Development regarding a resolution to amend membership of the Economic Development Commission by Ms. Grab, who will be joined by Deputy County Attorney.
I'm putting John in
John
the hot
Hauser.
seat.
Welcome.
My God, she even made me sit in the middle.
And in the hot seat, sir.
And you
Your
don't have
favorite
legislation in
spot.
front of you.
All right, well, Cindy, if you want to cue this up, I'm ready to take it over from there.
So good morning, Commissioners. Again, thank you for letting us come before you. I'm new to my role, and part of that is also learning how the commissions support what we do in St. Mary's County. And the Economic Development Commission is one of those strategy committees that the county has established to make sure that we have the opportunity at certain grant funding and/or additional funding that may become available to implement the comprehensive economic development strategy plan that our county has. part of that is how do you establish what that makeup of the board is? And when I started the job in December, there were already conversations with the EDC as to what really is the makeup, how many members, and who's ex officio, and can they vote and can they not vote? And at that point, we've had several discussions in the January meeting and the April meeting. And in the April meeting, the board at the EDC decided to create a resolution with the help of Mr. Hauser, and they actually recommended that resolution come before you for consideration and adoption to actually amend or revise the membership structure, or at least strengthen the membership structure of what that EDC board is, so that they can be more impactful in our community. And with that, I'll turn it over to Mr. Hauser.
So that was a fantastic introduction, Commissioners, and for the record, John Hauser, Deputy County Attorney upstairs in the County Attorney's Office. Director Greb summarized it excellently. Just a little bit of additional background. Economic Development Commission began talking some of these questions about who is it that's on air, how do we institutions approach the Economic Development Commission and say, are we ex officio members? If not, how could we become ex officio members? Generated some questions among staff and the EDC, and that caused us to start looking at sections of the county code that govern the Economic Development Commission's composition. You've had an EDC in some fashion or another since at least the 1980s. They're required by the Public Works and Economic Development Act of 1965. They're the advisory board that instructs the commissioners when it comes to preparing your comprehensive economic development strategy. The code that you have right now does not set, though, any fixed membership, either a number or the composition of the membership. It says that the commissioners appoint the members, and that those members can come from such fields as they can be public officials, community leaders, private individuals, representatives of institutions of higher education, anyone and everything that has some bearing or some relevance to the economic life and development of St. Mary's County. What that does not create, though, is when the question comes up, well, are we at quorum? How do we know we're at quorum? Because quorum is half plus one of what number is our total authorized membership, when the commissioners have been doing it by custom and appointing eligible people, but no set qualifications for them in that time. Now, to be clear, this doesn't come to you as a compliance issue. This doesn't have to be done. No action taken today. The Economic Development Commission still meets. People still come to work. Lights stay on. The envy do not come to live, or the living do not come to envy the dead. But the thought was, could some structure answer some of these questions and make things better in the future? So the proposal that the Economic Development Commission recommended to you, again, with the help of staff crafting this, is to set a defined number or composition of the membership composed of 11 regular members, one representative from each of the current 6 targeted industries in the Comprehensive Economic Development Strategy, one representative from the small business community, one representative from an institution of higher learning, and then 3 at-large representatives who only qualification is to have some knowledge and experience relevant to the economic development of St. Mary's County. We define that there will be 2 ex officio members, designated representatives from NALC-AD and the Chamber of Commerce, and that those ex officio members shall be considered non-voting, which is in keeping with the current practice and custom the EDC does today. You retain the ability to appoint 1 alternate member as well. The EDC will still function exactly as it does today. Members who are currently on the EDC continue to serve out the remainder of their terms. When it comes up for reappointment, then Ms. Gleisner's replacement up in the office will have to look and see whether that replacement can fit in to one of these defined categories. If not, they either become one of the at-large members or will have to be replaced by someone who does satisfy one of these criteria, and it can be done by resolution. It's a personnel and staffing question only. That doesn't rise to the level of the type of action that requires an ordinance or a public hearing. So pending any questions, requests for clarification from the commissioners, or direction to change this and bring it back to you in an altered form, this is ready for your approval today and can become effective
All right,
immediately.
well, tell me, how many currently sits on this commission?
11, as it would happen.
So you're going to keep it at 11?
So keep it at 11. That 11 is regular members. It does not include the one kind of appointed ex officio from NAVAIR.
How many are voting members?
That would be 11 as they currently practice.
Okay, so the ex officios would be additional members.
Right. The ex officio, let me make sure of that, just long night.
And I would
last
like to
night.
make one point of clarification while he's counting.
Yep.
NALC-AID had, actually, it's, the Navy has requested that it not be NALC-AID on the resolution. They've requested that the designee be from the Naval Air Warfare Center Aircraft Division, Patuxent River. It's the command that supports NAVAIR and has the labs and the ranges, et cetera, at Webster Field and PAX. So it will not read NALC-AID. It will say Naval Air
Well,
Warfare
somebody from the
Center
Navy,
Aircraft
right.
Division.
Yeah.
It does.
Yes,
I'll
sir.
make sure that NOC AD and that are the same thing, right? 'Cause
No,
I-
sir, they're not.
They're not, no.
So what's this going to fix by doing this?
Leads to easier questions when questions come up of who is entitled to stand in for the Navy, or in this case, Naval Air Warcraft Center Aircraft Division Patuxent River, which I'm looking at the resolution, is what reads on the resolution, and that, my mistake, not keeping the acronyms straight. Thank you for that, Cindy. Entitles the Chamber of Commerce to sit on there too. That's the one substantive change. They will have a designated ex officio. As far as what it fixes, it's housekeeping, because when the question comes up with quorum, it is a commission that meets quarterly. Sometimes not every member shows up. Sometimes it becomes marginal question whether or not we've got quorum or not. It's going to be making that determination much easier,
But
much
6
clearer.
voting
knowing that
members
they've
will
got
be
it.
a quorum?
Right.
Okay.
Right, because it would be the 11 regular members, the majority of them. It's going to help out with administrative and also kind of giving the Economic Development Commission knowledge, who they are, why they're there, what purpose they're serving, who they're there to represent and speak for. Also, to the extent that future appointments will be in keeping and make sure that those targeted industries are being represented on the EDC, you're going to make sure that the folks who the CEDS says should have kind of the most influence or be catered to are going to be represented on the EDC and have a voice on there to, opine on the comprehensive economic development strategy and whether the actions the EDC and the commissioners are taking are in furtherance of that strategy, rather than the kind of hodgepodge that it could be right now without this structure.
I think we're ready to move forward.
That's up to the commissioners. I'll keep talking if y'all want me to.
Need a motion?
I move to approve the proposed amendments to Chapter 157, Section 2 and 3 of the Code of St. Mary's County, amending the membership composition of the St. Mary's County Economic Development Commission, and to authorize the Commissioner President to sign any and all related documents.
Second.
I have a first and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it.
Thank you very much, Commissioners.
Thank you, commissioners.
Thank you both. And next up from the Department of Finance is the Fire and Rescue Loan Fund Policy. The CFO, Vanetta Van Cleef, along with Emergency Services Director, Jan Utz. Welcome.
Good morning.
Thank you. Good morning.
Good morning.
As you'll recall, last February, Finance brought forward the fire and rescue loan policy with a first pass at updating the policy, as it had not been updated since 1998. Subsequent to that, the members of the St. Mary's County Fire Board and St. Mary's Ambulance and Rescue Squad Association have collaborated with staff, including Director of Emergency Services to my left, to conduct a review and refinement process related to the loan fund. Today, we bring forward for Commissioner consideration and feedback the policy reflective of the process improvements identified during the reviews, as well as recognition of the establishment of a joint loan work group. We'll talk about that a little more as we get into the details. It provides clarification of roles and responsibilities of various entities, a more robust articulation of the timeline for the processes, establishing clear expectation and deadlines, and that's going to be aligned with the county annual budget process. So there'll be more timely consideration of these requests in conjunction with the budget versus some delay that we experienced this year. And a few requests for parameter changers. The Emergency Services Board did submit a letter of support. With that said, if you turn to page 9 in your package, the red line version, I just wanted to highlight a couple of the changes for you. Under item 1, county appropriations, you can see the recommendation to change from $8 to $10 million for the fund. The bottom, under loan fund parameters, there's a recommended change to change that mixture from 50-50 building and apparatus to 60-40. On page 10, there's an identification of the sequencing of any bond funds, how those would be allocated to the loans, which would be to buildings first and then land and apparatus.
And then on page 10 and 11, there's incorporation of rehabilitation, renovation, and of course, refinancing. So just some recognition there of some needs that weren't addressed in the prior policy. The remainder is the loan review process, and that does, as indicated include the newly established loan subcommittee. So the loan subcommittee made up of the various boards would submit recommendations to the ESB, and the ESB would review and make the recommendation to the commissioners. And with that said, are there any questions on the proposed changes to the policy?
Yeah, I had a few. So the existing loan fund balance was $5 million, and we've increased it to $10 million.
To 8 currently. The
8.
request is 10.
But the additional money will come from a general obligation bond versus a county funds. Any additional money put into this will be borrowed money from general obligation bonds?
At this point in time, the commissioners approved $1.5 million to be added as general obligation bonds. The remainder would be determined as needed as we move through the
But
process.
the
and those-
potential is there for additional, because we have $5 million in authority. Is that
There
correct?
is available, yes.
Okay. Now, the thing that I'd like to strike would be this 0.5 percentage rate that we would charge on top of the GOB bond. So I know when we do our own money, when we do county money, we charge a 0.5 point fee. But when we do a GOB bond, it talks about we would add a 0.5 point to whatever that interest rate is. Is that true?
No, sir. Maybe it begs some
Well, wait a minute.
clarification in the
Let me
verbiage.
get to
The
the
bond funds would be issued at the bond rate. If there are additional county funds included in that loan, the county funds would incur the 0.5%.
I thought the bond funds incurred the 0.5% on top of the rate.
No.
I'm on page, what is this, 2, I guess, or whatever.
Page two.
No, this is page 3 of 27. Loan interest rate. For loans funded through the issuance of county bonds, unpaid principal amount shall bear an interest rate at an annual rate equal to the bond rate plus 0.5%.
Right.
Okay. I apologize. I stand corrected.
And you
Good,
just
let's
want to
get that.
strike the
Okay.
0.5.
0.5.
Yeah, that makes sense.
I mean, it would be a pass-through type of thing versus us tacking 0.5 on.
Yep, I would agree with that.
Commissioner President Guy called me this morning that he was in favor of that too. So it's like, yeah, that makes sense to me.
Right. So we'll get rid of that.
I'm sorry, you're on page 3 of 27?
Yeah. It's under loan interest rate.
Unpaid.
Page 2.
Page
number
2 of
two.
the memo.
Yeah,
of the
but we got 3 of 27. I mean, these,
It's either page 2 or page
Okay.
3 of 27 there on the right.
Thank you.
Is it repeated on page 3, Commissioners?
It's 3 of
It is.
27. Page 2 is page 3
Okay,
of
all right,
27.
gotcha.
Yeah.
okay, now the other part is, the big idea, or I shouldn't say the big idea, one of the reasons we wanted to do this is because we want to help out Hollywood Volunteer Rescue Squad with their renovation. That is projected to be about a $3.5 million, or 3.6. They have some of their own money that they've raised. And we got to say here, though, that they have worked very hard. They're a very small organization. They do not have the potential to draw a large amount of fundraising, say like Hollywood Volunteer Fire Department does with their carnival, which I was just at this weekend. And where I'm going with this is they need as much help as they can get. So I'd want to make sure that in the project that they have ready to go, that there would be $2 million available from them of county funding at 0.5 and $1 million available at the GO bond rate, whatever it comes in at when it's sold. Does that need some clarification, or do you tell me what you need to make sure that happens?
A couple of things. So as far as the sequencing, if the commissioners are in agreement with the sequencing as proposed, then that would be an exception to this proposed policy, as $1.5 million needed to be issued currently in order to meet the need that was approved by the commissioners for the loans, so that $100,000 that would not be applied to the Hollywood loan for building.
I thought that would go to the 7th District refi.
It would go to, yes, a different loan, and then they would be paying the bond issue rate.
Yes,
Okay.
but they would pay on the 500 that we've authorized, and the Hollywood Rescue Squad would pay on the $1 million that we've authorized.
That can be done. It would be an exception to, if you approve the policy today, it would be an exception to that, but yes.
All right, well, what would if we were to approve the policy as presented, what would that look like for Hollywood Rescue Squad? Would they have to pay more than $1 million in GOB funding?
Yes, it'd be 1.5 in GOB funding and 1.5 in the fund balance.
Well, that's 50/50. Didn't you talk about 60/40 here?
That's for the overall allocation of the fund, not on a particular loan.
But on a particular loan, it would be 50/50. Look, this is confusing. I mean, I've been confused with you several times over the last few months, and I want to make sure this is clear.
So the 60/40 is about the allocation of building versus apparatus within the
right.
fund.
And we're talking about building, which would be 60%.
The building, it doesn't, the 60/40 doesn't apply to the combination of the mixture of the loan funds, i.e. GOB or fund balance. That's not determined by a percentage.
All right.
So I guess how do we determine which departments are getting bond fund versus which are getting county fund? And I'm nervous about any kind of exceptions to the policy. If we're setting the policy, let's set the policy so that we're fair to everybody across the board.
As it currently reads, please hold, on page 10, as county bonds are issued to meet the need.
This is 10 of 27, right?
This is 10 of 27. Issuance of county bonds will be used for loans in the following order. Buildings first, and then land, and then apparatus. So by this verbiage, I interpret it, and I invite the county attorney to join us if she would like to. I interpret that to mean the full 1.5 would go directly to the building loan. And I believe you can weigh in that that was the consensus of
That was
the
the
work group.
consensus, but I also, in full transparency, I want to address Commissioner Hewitt. You're anticipating a $3 million request from Hollywood Rescue?
Yes.
So the paragraph above stipulates how those loans can be disseminated and what the ceilings are on those. So if you look at letter B, $2.5 million, if the department has one outstanding loan for a building and one outstanding for a loan apparatus or land. I believe Hollywood Rescue has an outstanding balance, albeit small, on a vehicle apparatus right now. So I think, just in full transparency, the way that this policy has been recommended to us from the ESB is that would cap that company at 2 loans at that 2.5
All right, well,
million.
it sounds like they would
You are
fall
correct.
in line with this, right? The 2 million, or you're just saying the 3 million they couldn't get?
$3 million if both outstanding loans are for buildings, is the way the language is written and proposed. So I just want to be clear on that so that we don't.
So, yes, the $3 million would be an exception as well.
But there's they're saying there's an outstanding loan for apparatus. So that's going to lower that $3 million because, well, it's going to cap it. They're going to be the balance of it.
Right,
They're only
unless,
gonna be-
unless the company had the ability to pay off their existing apparatus loan, then they would be eligible for the $3 million for the building loan. I just want to be clear about what the proposed language states and was recommended by the ESB.
All right, well, I know Ms. Weibel's in the audience today, and I'd like to have her come up. She's the president of Hollywood Rescue Squad, because we need to understand that we gave them the full tax rate, but there's only so much they can afford. And this thing, we need to get it done. So if they don't have the money, then they can't move forward on whatever their
We gotta be able
project
to
is.
give them the full $3 million here. Yes.
Well, that's what I want to say. Ms. Weibel, how are you?
First of all, thank you, Commissioners. The ambulance loan we did pay off. I believe it was either paid off in May or June of this year.
Good.
Okay.
No, it's been paid off.
Yes, sir.
Good.
You
Good.
stand corrected.
I do, sir. Thank you. Thank you,
So
Barbara.
you are eligible then for the full 3 million because you don't have no loans.
We have no loans with the county at this time.
Okay, now tell me, and for full transparency again, Ms. Weibel and I talked at the Hollywood Volunteer Fire Department Sunday night. And the point is like, look, let's talk about what you can afford. You know, you've gotten this tax increase, and again, they're a small group. They don't have the capacity to do a lot of fundraising like other groups do. So we talked about if it was a 3.71 interest rate, which hopefully we'll get, we'll see, on $1 million. And it was a $2 million loan from the county at 0.5%. That would come in at about 18,000, I think 716. Did you have that number?
I do, $18,716.98.
All right, I remembered it well.
Spot on.
Yeah, 18,716. Now, if it was to go the way we're talking about this $1.5 million, it goes to 19,000 and some change. How much?
$457.59.
Okay, so, Ms. Weibel, if it were to go from 18,700 to 19,400, is that a deal breaker?
It's not a deal breaker. It's something that we could manage. Would like to say that the tax increase that we received from the county, all of those funds are earmarked specifically for the building. We have been notified that we will need to replace our Lucas equipment, which we actually have 4 of those pieces. We need to do that by 2030. Those funds are going to come from our fundraising and regular
How
operating.
much does that cost?
At this time, do you know how much a Lucas?
I don't know.
30K
They were,
each
at
or
one point in time, I think $15,000 a piece, but they probably have increased in price.
So, we're looking at roughly $60,000 that we haven't been able to put into our budget to the county because we didn't know about this until this year.
Okay, and how many members do you have?
Actively running squad members, we have approximately 40. We do have an auxiliary auxiliary and associate members who help with fundraising and people who can't commit to full active duties but they will come out and help us
Okay,
at
so you have
times.
about 40.
Yes.
Again, I get back to the thing is in my opinion, they need as much help as they can get. Now, if we make an exception to this, we do it this one time, but we allow them to gain $2 million from county, $1 million from GOB. That gets them back down to their 18,700 number. And if we do another 500,000 to the 7th district, it would take them from, I think we're at 5.69% down to 3.71. That's 198 basis points on 500,000.
500,000.
Takes me a second, I'm sorry. It's about 6,100 a year. You have, look, I'm sorry. I'm just trying to figure out how much money we're going to save to 7th District by reducing their rate by 198 basis points. Okay, we'll do that later. Do that later. It's too much for me. I can usually do it in my head, but I don't want to be wrong. Anyway, Commissioner Alderson, it was your initiative to bring this forth for the 7th.
Yes.
Can you agree with that?
Yes, yeah. Anything to help, because, they're small, just like,
I agree.
Hollywood Rescue Squad is, and with limited fundraising, so, yeah, if anything to help them out.
Thank you.
And we definitely owe them a lot for what they do, and so I want to see them be able to.
All right, can we have this textualized, or whatever term needs to be recorded, that you're going to do it this way and that we don't end up with a different number in a month or so when they have. Now, the other part is, are we going to release this money as they need it, i.e. draws, as the contractor requests money, or are we going to give them the whole funding at one time?
I believe it is as needed, but I would have to check with the process.
Well, this one here talked about doing it in
As needed.
as needed.
Yes.
So that process would look like if a contractor submits a request for payment, they would forward that to the county. the county, I guess somebody somewhere would review it and figure out it's okay, and then forward that kind of funding. So they would only pay the interest on the money they borrowed.
Correct.
Okay. Well, some ways, Ms. Weibel, it may be better for you if you were to get the whole amount at one time. Because if you got the money at 0.5 and you invested in a high-yield money market account, you could have an arbitrage of probably 3%. Now, I don't recommend that, but I still say the best way to do it is pay as you go, and just try and keep your costs down wherever you can.
Mhm. Yes, I'm familiar with the process that they're discussing.
Okay, good. All right. So do we need to,
Yeah,
County Administrator, do we need to change this wording any way on this motion?
I think there's two
I think you have to
pieces.
incorporate
The exception?
the exception.
Okay.
That wouldn't fall under as modified?
Well, I think we could say this motion with the exception.
Okay.
Okay, that worked.
We're all clear on the exception, correct?
We are.
Okay.
Good. Okay, I move to accept the policy changes as modified for Hollywood Volunteer Rescue Squad to receive $2 million in county funding, $1 million in general obligation bond funding. The 7th District Rescue Squad, is it this firehouse?
It's
Fire
fire
department. Okay, fire department, to receive $500,000 in GOB funding, and authorize staff to update associated loan documents accordingly.
Second.
Um,
Discussion?
Policy?
What'd you say?
And update the policy?
I thought I said I moved to accept the policy
Oh,
changes.
okay. I'm sorry, I missed that part.
That's right,
Okay,
that's right.
thank you.
Yep.
So I have a first and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Ayes have it.
Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioners.
Thank you.
Hattie Norris would have been happy if $500,000 came to the rescue squad.
Well,
Next up on the agenda is actually from me, the county administrator, requesting that the commissioners approve an employment contract. This is for the Chief Information Officer employment contract approval, and it is for a Mr. Glenn Maines, who is sitting in the audience, to be the county's next Chief Information Officer.
come
He
on
has
up.
more than 25 years' experience in local government with over 12 years in senior IT leadership. He holds a Master's of Business Administration and a Master's of Science in Computer Systems Management. He's a St. Mary's County resident. He brings a strong combination of strategic technology, leadership, cybersecurity expertise, infrastructure modernization experience, and operational excellence. And his start date is July 27th, 2026.
Yes.
Welcome, sir.
Yes.
Welcome.
Good morning.
Morning, you need a walk-up song with all that.
Tell us a little bit about yourself.
That
Well,
Dave didn't. Start at the beginning, don't skip a thing.
Well, the CAO Weisskopf is pretty much covered a lot of what I've done. I've been in the IT industry for a little over 30 years. I got education in my BS, AA, and Master of Science was all technical focused. At that point, I was looking to move into more managerial roles, and I was told I was too technical then, and so that led to the MBA. I spent the majority of my career with Prince George's County. I went there as a contractor. They asked me to stay. I was an applications guy, so I got to touch all the systems and all the applications for the different departments, learning their business processes. Throughout that, I got my hands into the infrastructure side of it because I didn't like the way my applications ran on somebody else's infrastructure. And through that, I've pretty much touched all things IT.
That's good to know. I'm glad you're from living in St. Mary's County, that we don't have to pay you relocation expenses. Not that that's a big deal, but I'm glad you're from St. Mary's County, or you live here in this county.
My wife and I love it down here. It's kind of my kind of place. I grew up outside of Pittsburgh in farm country, and you know, not taking away from some other counties, but this county gives me some space, and I like my space.
Well, good.
Very good.
Well, do you see any challenges as you come to the role, or is you still too new to make any assessments?
I'm sure there will be, but honestly, I'm looking forward to them. The challenges is kind of what drives my career. I'll see some things that are familiar, and I'm sure I'm going to see some new things that'll make it more fun. So.
All right, well, welcome to St. Mary's County government.
There you go.
Yeah, thank you. Welcome here. I would assume that Prince George's County has a much larger IT infrastructure than what we have here. So looking forward to having you on board and whatever you can bring to us and help us as we continue to modernize. And there's a lot of change in IT over the past decade and still ongoing.
And it's speeding up.
Yes.
It really is.
It changes moment to moment, day by day, so, yep, absolutely wonderful to have your expertise on board.
Very good. I move to approve the employment contract for the Chief Information Officer for St. Mary's County Government and authorize the Commissioner Present to sign the related documents.
Second.
I have a first and a second. All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Ayes have it.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Look forward to working with you, sir. And that is all from the County Administrator's docket today.
Okay. Guess we move now into Commissioner time, and I'm going to go ahead and start to my right with Commissioner Hewitt.
Oh, well, thank you. Well, Lord knows we haven't been here in 3 weeks. I almost overslept this morning because I haven't had to have a meeting, but thank God we did. I want to report on the YMCA in Great Mills, on Great Mills Road in Lexington Park. I was at a presentation they did before a group in Lexington Park at the Lexington Park Library. And I'm happy to say that they've got over 1,200 people who have signed up to join the YMCA. I'm going to do that myself. I'm still trying to work my way through the process, but I'll be there pretty soon too. But it's getting off the ground and it's on its way. Now, it hasn't had its share of challenges, and i.e. getting the project finished. Now, they thought they were going to be able to get in there the 14th or sometime this week, but now it looks like it's into August now. They just can't get stuff delivered as quickly as they thought they could get it, and it's just, I hate to use the term supply chain or whatever the term is, but it's just one thing after another as far as something not being there that's critical to it opening. So please, have patience. It's going to get there. You know, I've heard people say, you know, it's down in Great Mills. Well, you know, we had that pool there. We've had that pool there for almost 25 years, and it's done fine. It's done excellent, actually. And this facility will do fine, too. It's over 64,500 square feet, and it's beautiful. If you haven't seen it, please take time to look. Now, I hope you had a great 4th of July. Like many of us went, I actually had a family barbecue, and my nephew's up in Bethesda, but, you know, it's a great time, 29 family members, and you get to see all the new babies. Lord knows these younger people having kids, thank God. Good. And, you know, also brothers and sisters. And being in my 70s now, you know, we always say, gosh, we thought it'd take longer to get this old, you know. But, hey, it is what it is. But July 4th was an excellent time for outdoor barbecue with hamburgers, hot dogs, and family. So hopefully you had the same event. Now, we've had a couple of Planning Commission public hearings. We had one last Tuesday night that I watched on TV. Lord knows it was very, very excellent to have that number of people come out and speak. Just have that. I know this room was packed, and they had people out in the hallway watching it either online or on TV or wherever they were watching it. I watched it on TV from home. And I thought the Planning Commission did a great job of letting everybody have an opportunity to speak. I think they had 48 speakers, if I could be wrong, and over 50 written comments. Took the time to read all that over the weekend because it was part of our projected comp plan presentation today. And I thought it was very interesting that one company down at the end of St. George's Island, I'll use the term the Evans family down there, I think it's Camp Maryland, they actually withdrew their application because so many people on the St. George's Island were opposed to it. That's actually refreshing that somebody can say, well, look, I had an idea, but there's so many people opposed to it, I didn't do it. So I got to give those people kudos. Thank you for removing it and keeping your neighbors in mind. So it was a great idea, a great opportunity for what I'll call democracy, for people to come in and give their opinion and have their, well, in this case, appointed representatives speak. Tonight, we'll have a public hearing. It won't be on the comp plan, that's to be later, but we'll have 2 hearings tonight that hopefully we'll get. I don't mind if there's that many people here, more people the merrier. I'd like to hear from as many people as possible. But it's about hearing from the people who live in this county and are concerned about development or whatever the issue is, that they show up and tell us, and that's very important. One thing, though, I thought was kind of interesting in all this is Stanley Martin is one of the main one, in my opinion, that people were concerned about. They want to do 417 or whatever it is. They have this idea of how many houses they want to build out because of existing infrastructure they have. And I'm not for it, I'm not against it, I'm just saying this is what they want to do. What I did find as something something missing here is the town of Leonardtown, which has 5,000 residents in that neighborhood, wants to do 1,200 homes over the next 8 to 10 years. And Lord knows they're building left and right. The Meadow runs at Town 2, or whatever they call that down there on Hollywood Leonardtown Road, has close to 100 units already built or being developed. That's 303. They're talking 752 into Tudor Hall in downtown Lexington Park, downtown Leonardtown. And if they can get what they have, the annexation of the property down there, Cedar Lane, on down towards Route 4, there'll be another 200 and some. I mean, it's just amazing, that type of development. Now, what's also unique is the people like Stanley Martin and any of these other people in St. Mary's County who want to do something, they have to be able to prove that there's enough school seats, there's enough roadway, there's enough infrastructure. And that's what we continually hear, is our schools are overcrowded, our hospitals overcrowded. These people hold this back until you can have that infrastructure in place. And I agree with that. Don't build something if you can't accommodate the traffic or whatever else is required. But the town of Leonardtown has no regard for that. They don't have to. If someone builds 1,200 homes in Leonardtown, in the municipality of Leonardtown, they don't have to worry about school seats. It's not part of their plan. That's the county's problem. They'll take care of that. We don't have to worry about it. Roadways, we don't have to worry about that. Infrastructure, we don't have to worry about that. It just doesn't seem fair that we have to have so much scrutiny of 400 and some, or whatever the development is, but almost no scrutiny of 1,200 homes. It just does not make sense. And on top of that, they don't pay the excise tax, which everybody else in the county has to pay. Now, they have recently said that they'll give $2,135 towards the Board of Education or I don't know how that money will be collected. I don't know how it will get to the Board of Education. It's usually gone through the county. But this is all stuff that's up in the air. And this will be something for the next Board of Commissioners to get their head around and try and figure out. But other than that, public hearing tonight, one on the public necessity, adding another layer of bureaucracy for fuel stations, small department stores, I guess we'll call them, vape stores, and then the other one on our cannabis monies that we've been receiving that we need to figure out how we're going to distribute. Please show up if you have the time. Thank you.
My turn?
Commissioner Hewitt? Or Commissioner Coleman?
All right. Well, a lot to talk about this morning. First off, 3 weeks since our last meeting, and I've received multiple questions about an action that we took at our last meeting. And, you know, I always go back to when I was in school, the teacher always said, if somebody has a question, it means more people had questions about it, they just were afraid to speak up. But, so I just want to add some clarity to what was done. At our June 23rd meeting, we had a 3-2 vote in approval of sale of bonds. Now, this is a routine action, and the proceeds of those bond sales go to pay for already approved projects, like the St. Clements Island Museum, road improvements, school facilities, and the YMCA, which, as we just heard, is almost done, but not quite done yet. So everyone has the right to vote no. Lord knows I've voted no plenty of times, but I think it's fair to expect someone, if they're going to vote no, to justify why they're voting no, or at least try, if they believe that strongly about it, to try and convince the other commissioners why they do it. So statements were made during that meeting that our CFO at our 5/12 budget work session said that we would not need to do as much bonds or sell as many bonds, but that's not accurate. That's not what she said at all. She said that it would smooth out our bond needs in future years. She never said we wouldn't need to sell bonds for current projects. So that was an error. It's a routine issue that everybody on this board supported those projects getting put out there. Now we have to pay for them. So it was disappointing that that's what the vote was, but that's just so that everyone understands why we made that vote and what it was. It should have been an all of us vote, but it wasn't. Second, Planning Commission met last night, and I was disappointed in their votes. They didn't vote on all of the proposals, but the ones they did vote on, it was just shocking. The community had come out and spoken very clearly. There's a very strong mandate opposed to those projects, especially the development of the Stanley Martin projects. I'm not in support of expanding the development district. I am not in support of that at all. But the good news is it's not over yet. The Planning Commission still has time to meet, and they could go back and change their vote if they so wanted to. And their vote isn't final. It comes to the commissioners, and it all relates to the comp plan, which we discussed this morning. It's behind schedule, but I believe we should keep pushing forward to do the work. If we run out of time, it'll end up going to the next board, but I think we should keep working it while we're in the seats. Good news, Freedom Fest on the July 3rd at the fairgrounds was phenomenal. They did such a great job. It was a hot day, but my family was able to be out there, and it was a huge crowd and a great crowd, very family friendly, a lot of fun. So I'm glad that county government has been able to support that for the past couple years, and talk about return on investment. I think it's been great, just really good. Also, over the last week, there was an event called the Spirit of America, where all across the country, over 800 different localities, people read the Declaration of Independence because it was the 250th anniversary of the Declaration of Independence being read to the public. And I was able to participate in that. It was so much fun. It was great. So if you get a chance, go back and watch it. I didn't make any eye contact at all because I didn't want to skip a word and get yelled at for messing up the Declaration of Independence. But if you watch it, make sure you tune in to our library director, Mr. Michael Blackwell's presentation. He did a phenomenal Thomas Jefferson and really brought out the rage and frustration that is in that document. The Hollywood Volunteer Fire Department Carnival. They had their first weekend. They had some rain issues, so they didn't have the greatest turnout. I got some reports that when they were able to be open, they had pretty decent turnout and good nights. So hopefully you can make it out this coming weekend. It's one of their biggest fundraisers, and it's just a great community event. It is just a lot of fun and a good event. Starting this weekend, we talked about it earlier in the meeting this morning, the summer stock musical Frozen. And I love our summer stock musicals. They do such a great job every year. And I'm really excited for Frozen because it's the perfect musical to have in a record hot summer. So it'll be a lot of fun to go watch that. And it opened this past weekend, SpongeBob the Musical at the Newtown Players. I've heard really good reviews. I'm looking forward to going to see it. So hopefully you can take advantage of some of those great things going on and have a great week. Thank you.
And Commissioner Alderson?
All right, well, thank you very much. So we're back after 3 weeks, and like Commissioner Hewitt said, I almost slept in, not me, because, I get like 3 hours of sleep, and then I wake up and like, oh, I gotta go, and then, a half hour, 45 minutes of flopping around in futility. So it's good to be back. The unfortunate thing about coming back is our docket is so stacked, and we have a full-on day today, and a lot of public engagement involved with these state with our docket and with Planning Commission. I was on vacation, and I sat down for the 3.5 hours and watched the entire Planning Commission meeting when I was on vacation. And my wife and my oldest son were both very tolerant of me sitting there and listening to it, and they were chiming in and actually getting engaged also. And I took notes and everything. And there's some and the fallout afterwards on social media, and everybody knows, I'm very inactive on social media for the large part, but I do watch it and read it. And the biggest thing I see from social media fallout from the Planning Commission meetings is there's a real lack of understanding and confusion when it comes to the decisions that were made last night. There are quite a few people who said that it's a done deal. Stanley Martin's going to be able to develop and do whatever they want now. And if you've paid attention over the past several years, we always hear, and I always speak out about the envelopes that are lined in the pockets of the commissioners. And I will tell you that I have yet to see that, and I doubt there's a single commissioner up here that has seen any of that. And I get it, it's frustration. We all understand that growth is a big issue in St. Mary's County. We do love our trees, we do love our wildlife, until they step in front of our cars when we're going down the road. But be that as it may, there needs to be growth in this county, but it needs to be focused growth in the proper areas with the expansion of Stanley Martin into the, I don't want to pick on those guys constantly, but they were the biggest fish in the barrel. The expansion of Lexington Park Development District up to Wildwood. For years, we've been trying to do a Lexington Park master plan, and it's been pushed off. Well, this past year, the Tri-County Council, we had grant money, and we forwarded that grant money to Lugham to expand Clarion's role in helping to finish up the Lexington Park Development District. Now, the unfortunate thing about it is the money has been sent over there, and now you have this request that's going to add more of a lift. Well, the money's not there from that grant anymore. It's already been spent, basically. But it also addresses something that has fallen behind for years, and that was that master plan for Lexington Park. And I was glad that I was able to, with the Tri-County Council, able to get that money to Clarion in order to address something that has should have been done several years ago. Do pay attention. Make sure you listen. And if you have questions, reach out to one of the commissioners, reach out to the Planning Commission. And another point of clarification is the Planning Commission, most time people refer to Planning Commission members as the commissioners. Well, I don't want to make it sound like we're on a pedestal or anything, but, this board up here are what I've always considered the commissioners. If it's planning commissioners or planning commissioner meeting members, then it's much easier when you're having conversations back and forth on social media that you delineate the two because we are two different entities. And the decisions that were made last night have not come before us yet. But know that we are all paying a lot of attention to this. This is not something we're going to get caught up on when they sit down and give us the report in a couple of weeks. Yesterday, I had a meeting with the director of the Maryland Cannabis Administration, and it was an eye-opening meeting for that side of the table and myself. I was surprised to hear that, according to the Cannabis Administration, that there are counties in the state that are absolutely clamoring to have a marijuana grow facility in their counties. And I haven't run into any that I know of, and I'm looking forward to going to Mako and talking to some people over there, because there's, we had the facility put in 7th District several years ago, much to the dismay of the residents over there, and I conveyed my feelings of disappointment in how that whole process went on. And I want to make sure that any facility, future facility that may be proposed, and proposed does a heavy lift there, proposed in this county, meets utmost scrutiny. So what happened to my friends and neighbors in the 7th District and my family doesn't happen to the people in Hollywood. I was approached at the Crab Festival by an old friend from school, and she came up to me and she goes, "How would you feel if you were a member of Boeing, Lockheed Martin, or any one of the major defense contractors coming to St. Mary's County to expand a project, and you're coming down 235 through the technology corridor and have to go through an absolute fog of the smell of cannabis? Would you want to bring your multi-billion-dollar corporation down here to expand jobs for people, knowing that that is all around?" To me, that's a non-starter. But we'll see. I'm personally going to try and fight that as hard as I can I'm not guaranteed another term, but I can guarantee you that I will fight this with the people of Hollywood for as long and as hard as I can. And even if I don't make this seat again come November, that I'll still stand with you to make sure you don't go through what we went through. We have meetings tonight. We have public hearings tonight on the ordinance for necessity needs study for gas stations and small discount stores and vape shops, along with how to spend the cannabis repair and refund fund money that we have not been sitting on since 2023. We've been waiting for the state to give us the guidance that they were supposed to give us 3 years ago, and it's always been, 6 more months, 6 more months, 6 more months. And allegedly, we're going to start the stoplight project, traffic light project in Morganza this summer. Well, we are smack in the middle of the summer, and I'll be reaching out to MDOT as soon as we finish up today and try to get an answer on when they're actually going to put shovels in the ground, because I had a constituent talk to me yesterday about a stoplight there, and it's long overdue. Another project's been taking 3 years in the making so far, so we'll see how we go. And I've taken enough time. Thank you.
Well said. All right. Well, yes, it has been 3 weeks since we've met, and yeah, I'm happy to be back too. Vacation and, well, not really vacation, but a little break time is nice, but it's good to get back and get back to work and get back in the swing of things. My wife and I had a chance to, for the 4th of July this year, we had the great opportunity. My wife decided, let's go somewhere really incredible. So we decided, why not go to Philadelphia for the 250? And it was, boy, was it hot. But boy, was it hot. But we had an absolute great time. We got to play tourist, get a Philly cheesesteak, go to all the incredible museums. We saw the Liberty Bell. There was a lot of great tours that were going on, a lot of people in costume as a lot of the founding fathers, and just being able to go and hear them orate and give speeches about the 4th of July and independence was really, really credible and really a great learning experience. On a great note too, at the same time, while we were there, it was also all the Miss America contestants were there, so I was able to get a picture of myself. I even got my wife to take it with Miss Maryland, so that was really cool. We had a great time with so many people there from all over the country. A lot of people wanted to be there as well, so really incredible time. They did cancel because it was so hot, they did cancel the 4th of July parade that day. That was kind of disappointing, but we had a great time, and then we went over to Kennett Square and spent some time with some family there and had a great time there, and came home and got back into the swing of things this past on the 7th. I was fortunate enough to get to go and attend a Circles meeting. It's a group here that they've, it's a nonprofit here that work with youth and with all different residents. So that was very informative, and be able to go and attend that. I was able to bring food for that. I brought all the food for that evening's meeting. There's about 45 people there, so that was very informative and a real learning experience, and I'm looking forward to working with that group a little bit more. On the 9th, we did have the YMCA meeting. I thought was really well attended. It went very well, very respectful crowd. And a lot of people had a lot of really, really good questions. And, big shout out to the YMCA team for being there and putting that and really putting that together and being there to answer those questions. They do have over 1,200 members now, and I think several more signed up. My wife and I, also Commissioner Hewitt, did get our applications and are filling them out and getting ready to put those in. So looking forward to that, and we're going to pay for our grandkids to go and because there's so many wonderful things the YMC offers and continues to offer. And they're so open to any group that wants to go and have something there. They're willing to work with you to make those things happen. And yes, I've heard a lot about there's going to be violence at the YMCA. These folks are absolute professionals. The YMCA is all over, and they are in, many YMCAs are in a lot worse areas than Great Mills. So they are experts in how to control that, in how to make sure that they addressed that situation, and they addressed, concerns with the public about that at that meeting, and they're very well equipped to be able to handle that. I don't believe that's going to be a problem. As Commissioner Hewitt said, we've had the Great Mills Pool there for a very long time. Have there been some incidences? Yes, but nothing exceedingly violent has gone on, so I don't see that as being an issue in our community. On the 10th, I was able to go to the Loeffler Senior Center Appreciation Day. Had a great afternoon. Got to see a play there. They do this thing which is like a sitting play where they're just reading. Nobody's, moving around. So it was really quite funny and quite enjoyable. And they had, vendors there. They had arts and crafts people there. Really a great afternoon. And I took the opportunity. I thought, when is a better time? So I went ahead and signed up, because for the last 2 years, I am officially a senior citizen. So I signed up at the Senior Center, so I am a member of our senior centers and look forward to going back. I brought the paperwork home for my wife to fill out one, and she says she's not quite ready for that yet. But this weekend was the Hollywood Volunteer Fire Department Carnival. We did not have a chance to attend that, but we are looking forward to attending with our grandkids this coming weekend. Going to be an exciting time. It's the first time that our grandkids are really going to be, well, 3 of them. The baby will not be as aware of it, but our other 3 grandchildren, it's the first time we're going to be able to attend where they're really going to be able to understand what's going on and really partake and really have a good time. So we're really looking forward to doing that. The Planning Commission meeting. This commissioner was also very surprised at the outcome of that, considering the public opinion about that, and the public, voiced their opinion very, very clearly. So this commissioner was also very surprised by the outcome of that vote. But as Commissioner Colvin said, it's not over yet. They're going to be meeting again, and they can change their minds, but there's a lot more that they have to meet on, and so we will just have to wait and see what the outcome is of that. And I also want to touch on what Commissioner Alderson said. I saw a lot of stuff on Facebook as well and across other social media where it's the commissioners, it's the Planning Commission, not the commissioners. The Planning Commission is not the commissioners of St. Mary's County. It still has to come before the commissioners of St. Mary's County. And I too would, I've never seen envelopes full of money coming into my pockets. So I don't think any of us here would entertain that from anybody, and we certainly have never seen it. And it is sometimes frustrating for this commissioner to see that because all of us here take our jobs very seriously, and we love this community, and we try very, very hard to make decisions that are best for the community at large. That's the job that you guys have given us, and that's what we try to do, and we take that obligation very, very seriously. This evening, come on. Oh, wait. Frozen this weekend. My oldest granddaughter is an absolute nut for Frozen. Everything she has is Frozen. She is so excited that Grandma and Grandpa are taking her to see Frozen. So we're going to thoroughly enjoy that with her and have that experience. Also this evening, come on out. I always say this. We all always say this. Come on out tonight. Lots of different public hearings, lots of topics to be discussed that are very important. The CRF funds, there's so much going on tonight, so definitely come out and let your voice be heard. Make sure you are here, you're ready to speak. If you want to speak, here's your opportunity. Once it's done, it's done. So I always tell people, please come on out, make your voices heard. I'd love to see this room packed. I'd like to see it packed for every public hearing that we have. But come on out tonight. It's very important. This is a really, really important one. So come on out, let your voices be heard, because that's what helps us make our decisions. Right? If the public comes out en masse and lets us know what they want and what they think, that's a large part of how we formulate what our decisions are going to be. So please come out. Please let us know what you think. As always, this coming weekend, the next couple of days are going to be very, very hot. So everybody, please, 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 we're summertime. Make sure your pets have water. Please make sure when you're driving around, you're going to work, you're running errands, that you're looking in the back seats of those vehicles, that you don't leave your children in the car. That's the last thing we want in this community, is a tragedy like that. So please, 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 I know how busy we get, but make sure that we're doing that. Make it part of your routine. You always look in the back seat. I don't even have children, but I do sometimes have my grandchildren, and I always make sure I look in the back seat when I go to work or anything, that nobody's back there. So please make sure that we're doing that. Please make sure you're checking up, especially as we get into this really, really hot weather that's coming, that you're checking up on your neighbors, your senior neighbors, making sure that they have what they need. Is there anything that we can do for them so they don't have to go out in the heat? Can we run to the store for you? Making sure that they've got water, they've got what they need, because that's important too. So be a good neighbor. Make sure you're taking care of all your neighbors. Buy Local Challenge coming up. Please get out, support local this weekend. We still have farmers markets going on all over the place. There's so much happening throughout our county. Get out, support local, buy St. Mary's County products. And with that, I need a motion.
I move to enter into closed session to discuss real property and litigation strategy. Second.
I have a first and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Meeting adjourned.